Is there anybody in the house that didn't watch the Ohio State game? I would hate to, if you're going to, watch it on film or something, if you live under a rock. Okay, so we're good. Urban Meyer's post-game on-field interview yesterday made me go into this little fantasy world. I wanted to instantly grow a foot, gain 100 pounds, be 20 years old, and play on his team. I was just really touched by what he said, because here he is. He's just done it again, right? And I'm sitting there listening to him, but I'd been hearing it the whole game. The commentators were saying things like this: when you're down by 14 points in a big game, in an away game with national championship kind of implications in this game, Urban Meyer always goes with the guy that he respects, always gives the ball to the guy that he has trust in. He's done it since he was at Utah, and I didn't even remember he used to be at Utah, right? And it's but that's how he coaches. And so here they were, 14 points down, early in a game that was just oh, are we really going to do this? No, we're not really going to do this, and of course we're not really going to do this. But Urban Meyer put his trust in his quarterback, and look what happened. At halftime, it's 14-14, and Ohio State is clearly in charge. They are in control of this game. And then they come out of the locker room, and J.T. Barrett goes down early in the third quarter, and that's when the game got exciting. If you like games that get exciting, I like blowouts if it's going my direction. I can relax a lot better. But here we are. We can't get the snap count right because we have a redshirt freshman guy in there instead of J.T. Barrett. And all of a sudden it's 3rd and 13. And what does Haskins do? But he throws into double coverage to get the first down. And from then on, well, if you haven't watched the game, sorry. It went well for Ohio State, but it was in that post-game on-field interview when the interviewer asked Coach about his quarterbacks, plural. And when he starts talking about this redshirt freshman, the word that he used to describe his play was, now that was elite. Can you imagine being 20 years old and having Urban Meyer talk about your play in the big house when you're down 14-0 and you've come back? Can you imagine hearing the words, that was elite? I mean, that's a pretty good thing. It doesn't make anybody else want to gain 100 pounds, grow a foot, and you have to have all three parts of this formula. Nobody wants to say, oh, I want to gain 100 pounds. No. Anybody want to grow a foot? Not at this point. Oh, but if you can also be 20 and play for Urban Meyer, okay, yeah, maybe you're with me. I've been spending a lot of time in 1 Thessalonians. If you have your Bible, find your way to Paul's writings, his earliest writings in the New Testament, 1 Thessalonians. And we're going to look at this, and I know this is a little bit of a stretch, but I kind of felt like the Apostle Paul was going with that same encouragement. He loves his team in Thessalonica. And he's a coach that likes to encourage. And so we've heard the Apostle Paul say things like this to his team. And in chapter 4, he's going to say, finally, brothers, we instructed you how to live in order to please God, as in fact you are living. Now we ask and urge you to do this more and more. That's a fourth quarter, kind of a come to the sidelines, let me charge you up for the end of the game. He says later in chapter 4, now about brotherly love, we don't even need to write to you. I mean, you already know this stuff, yet we urge you more and more. He writes in chapter 5, now brothers, about times and dates, we don't even need to tell you anything about that. You got that one. You know what to do. It's so encouraging. You get to the end or halfway through chapter 5. He says, but you, brothers, you're not in darkness. You're not darkness dwellers. You live in the light. Again, he's just charging them up for the end of the game. And finally, he gets to the end of the game. He says, therefore, encourage one another and build each other up, as in fact you are doing. So over and over and over again, the last two chapters of 1 Thessalonians. Well, the fact of the matter is, because the players on Paul's team respected their coach, he can call on them to a pretty aggressive game in the last two chapters. And Paul does call for aggressive play in the last two chapters of 1 Thessalonians. And because he has this relationship with his followers, man, they listen to the challenges and they're up for the challenge. I mean, it's things like this. In chapter 5, he says, hey, here's a tough game. Warn anybody that's idle. Encourage the timid. Help the weak. Be patient with everybody. That's kind of a big game plan. Or he says in verses 16 and 18, be joyful always. Pray continually. Give thanks in all circumstances. This is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. Well, that's like going for it on fourth down and long. Pray continually. Give thanks in all circumstances. I mean, that's heavy stuff. He ends the book by saying this, test everything. Hold on to what is good. Avoid every kind of evil. Here's what I'd like to do on the heels of an Ohio State win over Michigan. Gosh, was it 12 out of 13 years? I forget. Did I just lie in church? I want to take you to a sideline talk. I want you to picture it like this, because Paul still has 2 chapters to go. He's barely halfway through his book, and he says, finally, brothers, but it's not finally, because he has 2 chapters to go, and he's calling them to a high level of living. He doesn't want to just finish the game. He wants to win the game. And this is, so picture this, it's not Urban Meyer, it's the Apostle Paul. He calls his team to the sideline in chapter 4. Look at verse 11 and listen to what he says to them. Chapter 4, verse 11. Make it your ambition to lead a quiet life, to mind your own business, to work with your hands just as we told you, so that your daily life may win the respect of outsiders, and so that you will not be dependent on anybody. Oh my goodness, that paragraph right there. Now, in what he said here is, make it your ambition to lead a quiet life. Good translation of that. The scholars did a good job translating that. But we lose something from the original language to here, and it's something, you remember that book that I brought that no one wanted to read? That one about rhetorical device that I said was a great book and you guys all poo-pooed that book? What Paul says here is something called an oxymoron. And we know oxymorons. Oxymorons, when you go to Red Lobster and you order jumbo shrimp. I mean, that doesn't make sense. Those words are contradictory. That's what an oxymoron is. When a lady says, oh, I think I'm almost pregnant. Yeah, I'm a guy. I don't get that one. Because she is yet another oxymoron. She is clearly confused. That's an oxymoron. Hey, but if you're clearly confused and you don't understand what I'm talking about right now, act naturally. Another oxymoron. Oh, listen. Deafening silence. See, there are oxymorons. They're all pretty ugly. Okay, I'll stop. Paul is using an oxymoron in 4:11, and it doesn't translate well from Greek to English, but the word that he uses that is translated, make it your ambition, is a term that this like stirs everything up really fast. Make it your ambition to lead a quiet life. Oxymoron. Make it your ambition. Furious activity. So if you can imagine this as a sideline talk, the coach just called him over and he has him on the sideline. Our number 1 quarterback's out. We got a freshman in there, okay? Here's what I need all of you to do. Relax and play your game. It's oxymoronic. Furious action to lead a quiet life. You can almost see the coach's hands say it. Furious action to lead a quiet life. But that's only the first part of the oxymoron. He continues in verse 11. He goes, make it your ambition. Number 2, to mind your own business. You know, Jesus talks about this in Matthew chapter 7. Jesus is so good at metaphors. I mean, I guess we would expect him to be because he is the Son of God. But listen to this metaphor in Matthew 7. Jesus says, why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take that speck out of your eye, when all the time there's a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck in your brother's eyes. There's only one problem with what Jesus says there. It's so much easier to see the speck in your brother's eye, isn't it? Isn't it so much easier to look at somebody else's life and see everything they're doing wrong, the 4 things they're doing wrong, and ignore the 17 things that you're doing wrong? Isn't it so much easier to identify a problem in everyone else except for you? Yes. But Jesus said, get the plank out, then you can see the speck. And Paul picks that up here and he says, make it your ambition, intense, to mind your own business, to mind your own business. The third part of the oxymoron, make it your ambition to work with your hands. No explanation needed. And then Paul does a really funny thing. He goes into this to so that statements. So you're going to get furiously active, to be quiet, to worry about you, and to work with your own hands. So that. Notice the first so that statement. So that your daily life may win the respect of outsiders, and so that you will not be dependent on anybody. Two so that statement. That's a little unusual. First one, so that your daily life may win the respect of outsiders. Can I make a few observations about our church? I'm fascinated by the fact that we do so many things well. Ron says to me all the time, another good day at Covington Presbyterian, but we're so weird. We don't even pass the offering plate. And visitors come in and they go, I had $5 to put in and nobody passed the plate. Yeah, and yet we're ahead on our budget. There's an oxymoron for you, right? It just doesn't make sense, does it? We do a good job of supporting the work of the church. And we do a good job when we sing congregationally. A lot of you are like me. You sing loudly, not especially well, but you sing loudly, and it's like you try even if you don't know and you stumble over the words. That's okay, you try. And Sarah used to go la, la, la if she didn't know, and that's great. That's the right attitude to have. And when the choir sings, time and time again, you guys think I'm going to call my own bluff. I say, why do I even need to preach this? The choir just did it, and you're all going, yeah, I know. That's exactly what we're hoping for. Get out of here, right? It's like, no, but the choir gives us the message, and it's just so meaningful, and things just go well around here. But I want you to notice chapter 4, verses 11 and 12, the so that statement. So that your daily life may win the respect of outsiders. So that your daily life, not your life from 10 to 11 on Sunday morning, that's not what Paul says. You don't get furiously involved in the process of living a quiet life and minding your own business and working with your hands on Sunday morning. No, the so that is so that your daily life, the Monday through Saturday, if the doctrines that we sing about and have sung to us and read from the scripture and explain, if the doctrine stays in this sanctuary, what good is that? I mean, it's kind of like if Ohio State can get it right in practice all week long when they're at their home practice field in Columbus, but they can't transfer it to the football field up in Ann Arbor, then they don't win the respect of outsiders, do they? It's game day. It's when you're out there among the pagans that people are watching us, and they want to respect what we do if we're respectable. First, so that statement is a powerful so that statement, so that your daily life, not your Sunday life, not your worship life, not the things we're getting done well around here, but your daily life, the transfer skill, that's what wins the respect of outsiders. And then Paul rounds it out with this, and so that you will not be dependent on anybody. The flurry of activity to live a quiet life, to mind your own business, to work with your hands, to make your faith Monday through Saturday faith. That's going to win the respect of outsiders, but it's going to do something else too. It's going to give you a strength in your faith that you didn't have before. So I take care of my parents, and I've been taking my dad to the cardiologist for 4-week appointments, too many in a row. It used to be 6-month appointments, but his heart's not good, and so it's 4-week appointments. And my mom says, "Can't you tell the doctor this just doesn't work for me?" It's like, Mom, it's not about you. It's kind of about Dad, and the heart's an important muscle, so got to keep this one going. But I said to the doctor when we were there last time, 3 weeks ago, I said, "Dr. Kabir, things are better this time. The test results are better this time," and that's a little surprising. "So what can my dad do to maybe have an appointment 4 months from now instead of 4 weeks from now? Is there anything he could do?" And the doctor said, an unhealthy heart that gets activity is better than a healthy heart that gets no activity. And I looked at him and I said, "Let me say back to you what I heard you say. So if I would get my dad to get out of his chair, and my mom too, and they would walk just 25 yards a day, every day, he could have a better appointment and not come back maybe for like 4 months, right?" And Dr. Kabir, man, he picked up on it and goes, "Exactly right." And we got the 4-month appointment, and my parents have walked twice a day for the last 2 weeks, which is more than they ever did. Plug that back into what Paul just wrote to his people, so that you will not be dependent on anybody. The more activity you put into your faith Monday through Saturday, the more furious activity to lead a quiet life, to mind your own business, to work with your hands, that will strengthen your faith, even if your faith is as weak as my dad's heart. It will strengthen your faith so that you're not dependent on anybody else. Oh, man, I got an idea, Ron. This is a good one. I think the choir can preach the sermon. I probably don't even need to come. That should be the goal. You don't need me to explain it, because Monday through Saturday, your nose is in the Word. And Monday through Saturday, you're not going, "Well, I know what Pond needs to work on this." No, you're focused on you. Why? Because you're furious about leading a quiet life. And minding your business, not somebody else's business. And working with your hands, not telling somebody else's hands to get the job done. And guess what? You'll win the respect of people who don't go to church on Sunday morning. And you'll get stronger. And I'm coming anyway, okay? May God add his blessing to the reading and explanation of his word.